Hey, what is up, Danger Noodlers? It's Justin Wagers, and I'm gonna teach you how to do a rocket mount today on a freestyle highline. The rocket mount is a really dynamic move. It's basically a muscle up all the way to feet on a highline, but there's a few things you can do to prep to make it much easier. So first, you wanna just show up at a park, rig yourself kind of a bouncy 2-inch line, and practice rocket mounting from the ground up to your feet. And there are two different ways to do it. You can do it with your hands in the middle and your feet hitting the line outside of your hands, or you can do it the opposite, where your hands are a little bit wider and your feet hit the line inside of your hands. So if you practice this transition in the park a little bit, kind of going from the ground, rocket mounting up to your feet, it'll just get you really used to the feeling of replacing your hands with your feet. So when you get on the highline, it'll feel much more natural. For the rocket mount, you obviously want to be very comfortable bouncing in exposure. So do plenty of practice bouncing in exposure on a highline before you're trying rocket mounts. Because to be able to stick a rocket mount to your feet, you're gonna need to balance out as you land in exposure. And so you're gonna need to be already very comfortable in that position. Yeah, just safety-wise, the rocket mount can be a lot on your shoulders. So I wouldn't recommend just dropping right into it. I think it's probably a good idea to kind of start on your belly, drop onto your arms, bounce a little bit, just see how it's gonna feel before you give it a full bounce into a rocket mount. Yeah guys, the rocket mount doesn't take as much strength as you would think. You should be able to do a pull-up or two, but by no means do you have to be able to do a muscle up on a pull-up bar to do a rocket mount. Just make sure you step into it really gradually, because if you just throw yourself into a rocket mount right away, it can be a big impact on your shoulders. So I like to break the rocket mount into 3 different sections. So you have dropping into it, the kip up, and then the stick. So when you drop into the rocket mount, you want to get a nice bounce going pretty big, so you have plenty of momentum to power back up to your feet once you drop into it. It really helps to have the leash between your feet. So then when you're dropping down and you kick one foot to the side to drop into the rocket mount, you're not getting your leg wrapped around the leash in any way. Basically, you want to carry as much momentum as you can into the bottom of the bounce and just extend your body into the bottom of the bounce to give you the maximum momentum on the way up. Now part 2 is the kip up. Now there are a couple ways to do the kip up. What I like to do is, as the bounce starts coming up, just bring my knees up to my stomach and start to bring my body's momentum up. Now you can do it by kicking your knees up, you can do it by kicking your feet up. There are a few different ways to kip up, but the basic idea is, as soon as the bounce starts coming up, you want to start getting your weight, your body weight, on top of the line as soon as possible. So as you kip up, you're going to simultaneously bring the line from above your head down to about your waistline. Okay, so now we're in part 3 of the trick. It's the stick. So once the line is at your waistline, you're going to use the rest of your momentum and the weightlessness of the bounce at this point. You should be almost at the top of the bounce. And you're going to push the line a little bit farther down and then tuck your knees up one more time and stick them on the line as you let go. So there's a split second where your feet and hands are on the line at the same time, but that transition happens really fast. So your feet hit the line, and then just a second later, your hands let go and you're standing up in exposure. There are 2 different ways to stick the rocket mount. You can stick it between your hands, where your feet come up and land between your hands, and then you let go. Or you can stick it on the outside of your hands. So when you drop into the rocket mount, your hands are gonna be a little bit closer together, and then you're gonna pull yourself up and throw your feet on outside of your hands as you stand up. Both ways are very doable, and I just tend to prefer putting my feet on the inside of my hands because it feels more natural, but a lot of people do it the other way around. So try both and see what works. A lot of people really like feet on the outside of the hands. So once you understand the mechanics of the 3 parts of the trick, the dropping into it, the kipping up, and then the sticking it, it's really just all about repetition. If you try it enough times, eventually it's gonna happen. But one thing to think about in the rocket mount is you want your torso to stay upright as you stick the trick. So a lot of people have the tendency to, as you're coming up to your feet, your body wants to lean forward, But you have to think about, okay, I'm gonna stick this in exposure. I have to keep my shoulders upright as I stick my feet on the line and let go of my hands. But of course, when you're bouncing in exposure, you always want to be leaning forwards just a little bit, and that gives you a little bit more wiggle room to adjust forwards and back as you stick the trick. All right, well, best of luck with the rocket mount. It's definitely a tough one, but one of my favorite tricks to do on a highline. Go have fun with it.